with me through this. Bear with me through this. I've been here, my internet keeps going in and out, but I'm hoping it will last for the next hour. So hello everyone and welcome to the panel discussion webinar, My Journey, when newcomers share their experience, their career stories with us here. This event is provided to you in partnership with ACCESS Employment and the Institute for Performance and Learning. We are an organization made up of all the roles within learning and development. We come together to share, grow, and connect. In today's session, we are going to do just that. We will share our stories with a goal to help you by answering your questions. And we hope that you can connect with us, our organizations, to help you along your journey. My name is Eulenice Brandy Clark. I will be your moderator for today. I am currently a learning consultant at CIBC. I have been in the learning profession for over 20 years. I have a very long resume, so I'm not going to say it here at this event. If you want to know more about me, you can always contact I4PL and I'll get back to you. Today, I'm supported by a friend and colleague, Pat Lockhart, who is our longtime learning professional. And currently, she's the chair of the Toronto chapter of the Institute for Performance and Learning. So now, you know about me, you know about my support. Let's learn a little bit about our panelists. Let's start up with Majeda. Majeda Hadia has an MBA, she's a CPD certified and CTDP certified. She's a Toronto-based management consultant manager with 20 years plus of local and international experience in training, learning, and development, change management, technology implementation projects, and performance improvement initiatives. Over the course of her career, she led the journey, learning strategy, formulation, and implementation, provided her expertise to help her clients transition to new ways of working and support their teams through major transformations to succeed in their new roles. In transitioning to the Canadian job market, Majeda worked with ACCESS Employment after moving to Canada in 2016 and collaborated with amazing consultants from ACCESS and experienced professionals from around the world who choose to make Canada their new home. Majeda also volunteers as a networking committee co-chair with I4PL to create a community for the learning professionals, to meet like-minded members, and to exchange their expertise. Our next panelist is Juan Nadar. Juan currently leads the next generation learning team at Rogers. Their objective is blending the worlds of learning, science, and technology to advance the boundaries of what is possible in corporate education. He's also combining his knowledge of economics and management with the world of adult education to produce innovative digital solutions that increase productivity and allow organizations to better assess the return on investment of their design and development departments. In the last 23 years, Juan has played an active role in the deployment of groundbreaking projects like the development of one of the world's first virtual universities, the creation of one of the first digital training programs for a corporate university in Latin America, and an innovative digital tracking system to calculate L&D's productivity. Not only has he done all of that, he has one other love, his love of sculpture. He has been awarded an honorable mention by the Ontario Society of Artists and has held multiple shows in various galleries across the city of Toronto. Welcome, Juan. And last but not least, our third panelist is Carla. Carla is a learning and design training developer at Desjardins Insurance. Carla is a seasoned professional in the e-learning industry. She started her career in Mexico working for academies and for the Mexican Armed Forces. For the past 8 years, Carla has worked in the Canadian insurance and retail industries, developing online training programs. She also pursued the Canadian CTDP certification to hone her BA and master's degree in education. Carla is married and has had her first child. Welcome, Carla. Okay. Welcome, you guys. There's a lot to get through today, so let's get started with the first question. I'm going to start with Carla. Okay, I'll start with Juan. Juan, can you answer for us? When did you come to Canada, and were you an LD professional before coming to Canada?
Okay, perfect. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Well, I came to Canada in 2003, and it's been a long time. I was a learning and development professional before coming to Canada. I got into the profession in 1997. I was very lucky. I was working in the insurance industry, and then someone offered me a job back in Colombia, working with actually a Mexican university to deploy virtual university in the country. At the time, the internet was still kind of a new thing in many ways. So I started working in 1997, completely like into learning and development. And then when I came to Canada in 2003, well, I wanted to continue working my profession. And there were, let's say, ups and downs. And then eventually we went back to what I used to do in Colombia and in Mexico, and now it's even better. I love it. Like, things have evolved and technology has changed so much.
Nice. What a colorful journey so far. And I think there's more to come.
I hope so.
Yes. Carla, could you answer that same question? When did you come to Canada, and were you a learning and development professional in your country?
I think Carla is on mute, isn't she?
I don't. Carla, yes, she is.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
I can.
I start my speeching and then you say, oh my gosh, I'm mute. Okay, I came to Canada in 2015. I have less years than Juan here in Canada, but I'm going to do my best, the panels, to show my experience. And before that, I worked for the Mexican Armed Forces, as you say, Elinis, and I worked for an academies as well and private companies, always involved in learning and development. And when my husband and I decided to move to Canada, I became in a freelance in order to make the transition easier for me between Mexico and Canada. And I work for clients in Mexico, continue or keep working as a learning development.
Wow. You know what's really interesting is that part where you say the Mexican Armed Forces. Like, what were you training them on? Like, that must have been fascinating.
It was a great experience. It's really great. Mexico, by the time that I enrolled in the Mexican Army, Mexico has a very bad situation with the drug dealers and all this crime in Mexico. So in the Mexican Armed Forces, they need to prepare faster. So the way that we found was to create all the material, all the master degrees and diplomas in an online way. And I was working in the academy by them, so they invited me, and I spent 3 years working on that, on the programs that I create 10 years ago. They are still running.
Nice.
These days.
Wow. See, this is an example of where we're needed in every area of what we do in this life.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, nicely done. Thank you. Welcome. Majeda, I know you've got a story as well. Can you tell us when you came to Canada and if you were a learning professional in your country before you came?
Yeah. So hi, everyone. I want to start by saying how happy I am being on this panel with two organizations that are partnering together, and the most organizations that are close to my heart, Institute for Performance and Learning and ACCES Employment. That's my starting point. I moved to Canada in 2016, early 2016. And yes, I was in the learning and development space For short, LND, if we use this abbreviation, this is what it stands for. I started my career as a software trainer. I'm originally from Lebanon, but my whole experience was in Kuwait, in the Middle East. And I started as a software trainer with Apple Computers, the agent in that country. I transitioned into a learning consultant role for the technology group in one of the large banks in the country. And after that, I moved to Canada and started my journey here. So, yeah,
Wow.
it is a very diverse and rewarding journey.
Yeah, it it sounds like it. And having met you, I know it is. I can tell that. Now, we're going to go to our. I'm just going to check for any questions. Oh, one of the questions I have is, can you explain? Oh, that the Institute for Performance is also is called I4PL. So yes, in Canada, as not so much in other parts of the world, maybe we use a lot of acronyms. And I4PL, which is Institute for Performance and Learning, is no different. So through this, if we refer to, if we say I4PL, we mean Institute for the Performance and Learning, just so everyone knows. Thank you for that question, for that question. All right, we're going to go to our next question because I don't see any more questions here. If I've missed anything, I'm sure somebody will let me know. Our second question is, how did you break into the L&D profession here in Canada? And Majeda, can we start with you? Because your journey is very tied to our hosting company right now. So that would be great.
Oh, yeah, sure. So actually, my journey started before I even moved to Canada. I used to come on a yearly basis to visit my son who was studying here, and I fell in love with this country. Actually, moving to Canada is a 20-year-old dream, which culminated in 2016 by my final move. You know that most of the newcomers to Canada are super experienced. They're mostly certified in their domains. And I was certified from an organization in the US as a certified learning and performance professional at that time. When I decided to move to Canada, before even landing here, I decided to explore what is the L&D field in Canada, and found the Institute for Performance and Learning at that time was called Canadian Society for Training and Development. So I became an e-member, an electronic member, even before moving, like 5 years before moving. I was associated with the Institute now, and I was so happy and passionate about the standards that they have in learning, which is equivalent to my US designation. But because I was moving here, I decided that no, I need to have a designation from the country. And I know this is the mindset of every newcomer who moves to Canada. We need to validate our experience. We need to validate that what we do is relevant to the market. And that's one of our concerns. And in 2015, I got my designation. So I say I'm passionate about these two organizations because I wanted to be part of them before even having the opportunity. I even approached Institute of Performance and Learning and asked them if I could volunteer from abroad, but of course that didn't work. I moved to Montreal and I was finishing up my thesis back home, and I was looking up for organizations that will help newcomers transition into the job market, but I couldn't find any in Quebec. And then I found 3 or 4. ACCES is one of the leading ones in Ontario. So I had my eye on them even before I moved to Ontario for good. The same month I moved to Ontario, I became an ACCES client, and I started working very closely with their consultants. And ACCES is an amazing organization that creates opportunities for newcomers that I was told even Canadians who are working in the profession do not have that much of opportunity of A, networking with large organizations, B, learning new things and what's the latest that's in demand in the job market, and C, just meeting so many different people. So that was my experience with ACCES, and that is what helped me transition very smoothly. Of course, being part of I4PL and having my designation, my experience validated in the market, created the best combination for me to, wherever I go. My problem was maybe I was overqualified than underqualified for certain roles, and it took some time for me to land my job. In fact, a fun story. Um, through one of the events of ACCES, Women in Leadership 1 week program in one of the largest banks in the country, I networked and I found about my current role and applied and got that opportunity. So this is how things fall in place when we do the due diligence.
Nicely done.
Yeah.
I knew your story was a good journey. Nicely done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Juan, I think your journey was quite interesting as well, because you had two starts to getting your career started in Canada. Do you want to tell us how you broke into the L&D world in Canada?
Absolutely. It was a little bit interesting. As I said before, there were a lot of ups and downs. So the first thing is, as Majeda, I think she used a wonderful strategy. I used a similar one. I got acquainted with the industry before arriving. And when I arrived, I had eyed some places I could go for basically job opportunities. So when I first landed, I found a job with the Spanish Center. And there I started doing a little bit of just teaching, which is kind of related to my profession, but it was not totally related with my profession. So I started there and kept on looking for other jobs and opportunities. And then in the Spanish Center, this was in 2004, little by little things started evolving, the business was improving. And then with the owner and the managers, we agreed that I could do a different role. So I started being a head teacher and started doing a dual sort of work as teaching, but also leading the teachers. And then I moved into developing all the corporate side of the Spanish Center. So everything that had to do with corporate deals for learning the language and other educational programs that the Institute, the center had. So everything was going very well. And I was very happy and things were rolling very well. And then the crisis hit. This is like the 2008 financial crisis. So things, all of us remember that one. So things got really tough there. The organization had to downsize to the basic kind of bare bones sort of infrastructure. So I was laid off. I kept on supporting, but not as an employee, but on contract. So that's not so great. So at that point, I decided to start exploring other opportunities. And that's when I started my kind of little company. I was doing little kind of pieces of work here and there. And I started volunteering with organizations that were close to my heart, like the Race Relations Foundation. I started developing, at the time, microlearning was not a thing. I started developing for them what we called learning pills. And it was a program of little kind of anti-racism sort of strategies. I did the blueprints, we were preparing to do the launch and etc. But in parallel, I was trying to look also for a job in a larger company that would provide me with more opportunities. So that's how in 2011, I found a job at Rogers. And then I started there because I had a lot of background with technology and virtual learning and etc. I started kind of infusing new strategies and applications and approaches to learning. And those approaches solved. And then little by little, I started kind of evolving my position. And I first I was in charge of a small group, then a larger group. My portfolio grew. And then a few years ago, it became my current role, which is next gen learning, which is fantastic job. I love it. It's kind of my dream job. What we do all day long is test new technologies, see if we can use them, and then the ones that are good, we adopt them, then implement them in our team, and then we also create high technologically intensive sort of assets for our lines of business and clients. So we create immersive experiences, learning platforms, microsites, virtual reality experiences, extended reality, web-based training, kind of gamified based, and like very, very sort of avant-garde approaches. And that's lovely because I'm working with a very tech-savvy team. And that's basically how I broke into this world.
Wow. I knew it was interesting. It was interesting. I remember 2008 well. I was working for an American firm at that time, and they laid me off. But I had a nice package. So after I had 6 months of butterflies, I relaxed, and then I found my current role, my current organization. So everything happens for a reason, and it was all good. It's all good.
It's interesting. Yeah, whenever normally people, and it's something that I kind of know based on experience with other friends and colleagues, is normally when people are laid off is a good opportunity to change and to evolve. And pretty much everyone I know who has gone through the experience, which is difficult and painful, of course, but then they're in way better positions or in more interesting jobs. So yeah, like if you're laid off, that's an opportunity to grow and to find something interesting and exercise your mind.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. You should have been there at the beginning to tell me that. But I got there eventually. Okay, Carla, you're up. Can you tell us how you broke into the Canadian scene for L&D?
Yeah, sure. It wasn't easy. I had a rough experience at everyone in this country. Actually, I remember I went to another association for that helped newcomers to get a job. And they say, because my English was very broken, they say, no, forget L and the learning and development. You need to find out another kind of job, like a survival job, before to find your or reach your goal to your dream job. And I say, no, I'm going to work in L&D. And I just started with a 6 months contract with a chain retail company. And there I was working as an instructional designer, but because all these barriers that you have as when you came for first time in Canada, like a language, cultural, I couldn't keep this work, but I learned a lot. And I learned that I need to improve my English as much as possible, and I need to certify myself. So I look for opportunities to get more knowledge, to get a Canadian credential, and I came across to the CTDP. So I decided to pursue my CTDP, and I went to the school. I pay a lot to improve my English, but and I am still working on that. But it has worked it. And in that way, I got my dream job in the Jardines Insurance, and I'm still there, and I am still learning and pursue new goals, always.
Nicely done. Thank you. I'm glad I'm hearing dream job a lot here, because a lot of people don't get that that satisfaction that we all have. So it's good to see that you can get it. I'm looking now at the chat. Let's see if there are any questions. One of the first questions I have is, how did Majeda validate her experience in the market?
Yeah, that's part of the homework we all need to do before moving. That's a must, because if wherever we are in the world, whatever we do there, it's put on a piece of paper, which is called my resume. And you submit that resume to wherever you apply in the country you're moving to become a citizen, but then how do they validate that? Yes, they interview you. You could be an excellent communicator. You could portray that experience, but without that formal validation through a reputable institution or credentialing company, it will always be, oh, what if for the employer? What if what they are saying is not their true caliber? What if, how can we be sure? For me, the homework started when I started first looking into the job roles way before I moved. The job roles, and like you go to Indeed, look for jobs in Canada or in the city you plan to be in, because the learning and development field is very competitive in North America. So I started looking into what I saw, and I was lucky because I was a learning consultant and I found a lot of learning consultants roles. The requirements for each of them was different. So yeah, I decided to take that certification because you go through the certification by taking exams or by creating a big project that you deliver, or there is another track where you show your experience and you validate it with documentation. And then when you become a CTDP, which is a certified training and development professional from a reputable organization like I4PL or Institute for Performance and Learning, the employer knows, okay, I can say they have equivalent expertise from back home, and it translated to something real here because of that certification. And that's what helped me a lot, and that's the big part of it.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Juan, I have a question for you. What kinds of technologies do newcomers need to get into L&D in Canada?
That's a very good question, and it depends on the technologies that the organization you're interested in actually use. There's a lot of diversity. So let's divide this into layers. There is a layer of things that it's really important for you to know, and the layer of is nice to have, nice to have things that you can use in more sort of groundbreaking or innovative organizations. So the basics are, if you want to be an instructional designer, you definitely want to know inside out an authoring tool. It could be like a Storyline, it could be anything, but you want to know very well at least one authoring tool if you are going to apply for instructional designer jobs. The reason is, even if your future employer uses a different tool, they know you're familiar with this type of solution, and then they know that your learning curve is going to be fast for learning the new one, whatever it is. So that's the first recommendation. Authoring tools, have one under your belt. Now, if you're applying for management position, so on the second level is after you know your authoring tool, you want to make sure that you, if you're really into technology, develop some other skill sets. And learning and development is supported by plenty of technologies. So you can decide and say, you know what, I'm going to specialize in video, right? So my forte will be video. Then there's all the Adobe solutions and all the options you have. Tons of companies that do video editing, video filming, et cetera, et cetera. You can also try to get spice up your learning strategy in terms of what you create by doing immersive reality or extended reality. So in that case, you want to probably learn very well Captivate, and you want to make sure that you understand the basic principles of iframe and et cetera. So it depends on, after you know your basic authoring tool, what are you going to use to make it more specialized or spice it up? What area you want to focus on? In terms of management, well, being up to date in all the basic technologies for communication and making sure that you manage them and use them effectively with your teams.
Nice. Majeda, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I would like to add to Juan's point. From a learning consultant perspective, which is the role that I had and have, it's good to know the tools. It's more about the learning life cycle. And learning development is one of them. So it depends, to Juan's point, what role you're applying for. If you're applying for an instructional designer, this is the set of tools that you need. If you're applying for a learning consultant role or a learning analyst role, you need to understand the full life cycle of the training development. You start with your needs analysis, you build your curriculum, you start developing, you test it, you prototype it, and then you deliver and evaluate. That framework has very set standards that one learns and can become very competent in. With whatever experience they bring in, accompanied with this knowledge of the framework in the industry, will prepare them to be a good learning consultant.
Nice.
Just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you, Juan. Thank you, Majeda. We do have a couple of questions in the Q&A. The first question is for Carla. Carla, nice to meet you. Is the questions this is from Alexandra Alves. Nice to meet you. They're saying, he says, or I am a developer too, and I'm freelancing, and I'm a freelance working on some projects remotely. What do you think about freelancing in Canada when talking to recruiters? Do you have any advice about interviews related to that?
I think I can, nice to meet you first of all, Alexander. I think I have a couple of advice for you. To work as a freelance in Canada, I noticed that if you became a member of the Institute for Performance and Learning, there is a resource that has job postings that you can get and related with as a freelance. And there is another result that is a website. The name of the website, I think, is freelancer.com, and there is help to the freelancer to reach employers that could be interested in your job and whatever you which tools or which kind of working you can do for them. I think it's a very good resources for them. In my experience, I never worked as a freelancer for Canadian clients. I have Mexican clients. So I when I move it, I keep my clients in Mexico and I work in Canada remotely, right? So, and with all these tools that we have now, Skype or all of them, I didn't have to fly to Mexico to meet them or reach them and work with them. So, but if you want to have clients in Canada, I think those resources could help you.
Thanks. Thank you. Does anybody have anything to add to that?
I can add something if there's time.
Yeah.
To Carla's point, there are freelancing websites. She mentioned freelance.com, and there is upwork.com. This is like an international website where freelancers post parts of their portfolio and they could get jobs from everywhere in the world. There is no competition from Far East in terms of pricing, but it's worth checking. The other piece of advice is build your portfolio, make sure you have permission to show it. And I think if you have a rich portfolio, people will grab you. There is a need, because everything is changing into virtual. There is a need to transform all the instructor-led training into virtual training. And this is where developers need come in.
Nice. Thank you for that. Okay. One more question, then we'll go back to our last question. It's from an anonymous person. They said, I was laid off in 2020 and could not finalize any job offer. Some of my friends suggested CFA, and now I'm pursuing level 1. Do you think my 1-year gap would make my job search difficult if I clear CFA level 1? Out there to whoever can answer that one.
Okay, I can jump on that one. So anonymous, don't get discouraged. Like, no one will care about a 1 year, 6 month gap. Is a very normal thing to have in our world. There is this mythical thinking out there that, like, I'm a hiring manager, I hire a lot of people. And you don't care. Like, if the person has the skill set you're looking for, and the person basically shows it clearly, that's okay. The flags are different, right? So if you have a person who has been laid off continually through many years in the same role, well, that's a flag. But if you're laid off in 2008 and then you're laid off in 2020, well, the world as a whole was going through 2 major crises. You're like, yeah, like, it's something that no one really cares at all. So yeah, that's kind of the balance. There are things that you pay attention as a hiring manager that are flags, people who don't stay in jobs a long time, just are completely different one from the other, continuous layoffs, like, those are flags. But you have like 2 layoffs in your history, I don't think that's a big deal. I myself have been laid off twice in the last 20 years, so it's normal, it happens. Don't get so self-conscious about it.
Yep. I think though we're conditioned that way, that if there's a gap, we got to fill that gap. Yeah. Oh, Majeda, did you have something to add?
Very quickly, I faced that, not because I was laid off, because it took time for me to land a job when I moved to Canada. I was insisting on landing a job in my profession and did not take any survival job where we are advised to do. So what I did, I volunteered. I put that I finished my MBA in the first few months, and then in the months that I was actually looking, I volunteered with the Institute for Performance and Learning. I volunteered other places, Mentor City, I was mentoring. So you keep them there when the employer, some employers are stuck on the idea, oh, they are not employed. So to target those and put whatever activities you've done, and you show that you kept yourself busy and up to date. That's my 2 cents.
I think that point is super important. Keep yourself busy. Don't just show a hole. It's okay to be unemployed, but it doesn't mean that you are idle. So it's very important that you, like, I had exactly the same as Majeda. When I came to Canada, I also had a gap in my resume. So number one, there's a resume strategy that you actually write by your achievements, not by chronological order. So that helps you with the gap being less obvious if you're worried about that. And then the second thing is, even if you're unemployed, you can do tons of things. You can volunteer in different organizations, you can do different jobs. And maybe the survival job is 80% nothing to do with your profession, but there is a 20 or 10% that probably is relevant somehow to your profession. You want to highlight those skills when you're applying, but keep yourself active. And a very good way to stay active in your profession, as you said, Majeda, is volunteering for organizations you really care about. And then you're giving the world, you're doing the world a favor, and you're doing yourself a favor by creating a better portfolio. And well, you can create that's experience. It's not paid, but it is experience, and it is important and relevant. Shows initiative if you have it.
Nice. Nicely done. Okay, just before we go on to, actually, I won't. There is a question there in the chat, but I'm going to leave it for this last question because it applies to this last question more so. So starting with Carla, can you tell me what resources you used and still use as an L&D professional?
Good question. Well, what are the resources I use? Well, as I think that the first resource that I would recommend is pursue that certification. The CTDP for me works so well. Another resource is the network. Try to do network as much as possible. In that way, I met Majeda, and she was actually my mentor, who validate my program, my product that I will use to certificate. So, and then in the same event that I met Majeda, I met another lady, her name is Tina Grevet, that's also, she volunteered for the Institute for Performance and Learning. And she interviewed me for my current job. So you never know. You need to try as much as possible these kind of resources, but networking in Canada is so important to pursue your dream job, or to meet very special people who gave you the most important or value advice in your career. So those kind of resources I will highlight.
Nice, thank you. Juan, do you have some resources you'd like to share with us?
We actually kind of, yeah, I have a nice list. I thought about this one hard because it's very important. It's actually the meat of this conversation today, probably. What is it that will help me? Okay, so these are the highlights. I hope you find them interesting, and I'll probably repeat some of the stuff that Carla said because it is true. And Majeda has mentioned already a couple of very important things. The first one is, it's a good idea to take selected courses, not everything that is over to you, but selected courses in a prestigious institution, a recognized institution in the place you're going. I agree with Majeda. Now, the funny thing is this, when I got into my job at Rogers, it helped me a lot to say that I was taking courses at U of T and I was taking an e-learning course, right? But I didn't finish the entire program. I did some selected courses that I found important. You don't need to do the whole thing. Halfway through the program, I realized that for some courses I already knew everything. Like I didn't know to finish the diploma just to say that I finished the diploma. So I just focused on courses that I really needed, but it helps to say, hey, I finished all these courses. I have these credits from U of T, and like I know what I'm doing. So again, don't buy into having to make a new bachelor's degree because probably you don't need it. There are exceptions in certain areas of the profession, but in general, in our profession, for example, you don't need to do that. But do take courses in recognized institutions. That's the first one. Do lots and lots, Carla mentioned it, lots of networking. Don't be shy. Don't be too self-conscious. I know it's hard. It is difficult. All of us go through the same thing because all of us fear the same things like being rejected and etc. But don't worry, like the people on the other side understand what you're going through normally because all of us have to look for a job at some point. So don't be shy, trust yourself, do cold calls, send cold emails. You know what? For every, like I sent hundreds literally of emails asking for information interviews. And the information interviews are important because you learn what's happening in the industry, but you get a personal connection with someone who could potentially be the person hiring you in the future. And I sent tons of emails, tons of calls. Out of 100, you get 10. But look, it's 10 people who are going to be your biggest fans if you do a good sales job. So just don't be shy, do call interviews, call emails. Some of them will be ignored. That's fine. Some others will be, there is going to be someone on the other side interested in helping. Just go for it. The other one is find someone honest. This is super important. Someone honest that is willing to give you honest feedback about your resume and be critical and hopefully literally destroys it and helps you redo it. Because one of the big problems that I had when I came to Canada is I was kind of discarded for bigger jobs and bigger companies, even though I had experience, because my resume wasn't great. But I didn't have anyone to help me to look critically to my resume. And I met someone finally in 2010 or 28 who like sat down with me. It was not good for my self-esteem, completely destroyed it. And trust me, told me in my face, your resume is garbage. We have to redo it totally. And no wonder you're not getting interviews. I was like, oh my gosh, really? Okay, so I swallowed my pride, redid it, and it worked. I got interviews. The next one is make sure you master your communication skills. By communication skills, it's verbal and written communication skills. Don't confuse having good communication skills with having an accent. They have nothing to do. It's completely okay to have an accent. Some people get over obsessed with the accent. Some people get like in these strange courses that They want to lose their accents. I don't know why. I mean, I know why. They have the perception that people discriminate against them. No, like your accent is part of your personality, makes you more memorable. Actually, it's an advantage over like standard average people with no accent. So the point is your communication has to be clear. Like, so you do need good grammar. You do need to write clearly. You do need to speak clearly, because those things, if you're in a room with a bunch of executives, you want them to understand what you're saying, right? And it's not about discrimination. It's about, well, if they don't understand, well, the idea won't go anywhere. And they may have the best intentions, but so work on your communication skills. And again, be ruthless with it. Get a good coach and get someone who make it hurt. Like if you're sitting with someone who tells you every day, all day long that you're great and you're doing a great job, there is something wrong with that coach. It's impossible for you to be great at everything all the time, especially if you're learning a second language. You need someone who goes for it. You're mispronouncing here. You're not using the correct structure here. Your sentence here totally sucks. It's not communicating what you want. And it feels bad at the moment, but especially because it feels bad at the moment, you remember afterward, and then you improve your communication skills. The other thing is F4PL is lovely. Join F4PL. It worked very well for me. I got to network with a lot of people, and the certification is something that people take seriously. Read and be up to date in your profession. Read tons of books about the latest of learning. It's very disappointing when you sit down in an interview and someone shows you a portfolio that looks like every other course, and a person who has no new ideas or ideas that are aligned with the latest of learning. Like, for example, someone's in an interview, this happened to us, an interview, and says, oh yeah, so you have to adapt your course to the learning styles of people. If the person is auditive, you do everything auditive, that's it, no job. Like learning styles is something that is scientifically completely discarded, is just BS that was invented, I don't know by whom, but it's not real science. So make sure that you know your stuff and that you're solid in your scientific knowledge of the world of learning. And then the last thing is just network, and keep on networking.
Nicely done. Thank you, Juan. And last but not least, Majeda.
Yeah, whatever Carla and Juan were saying was music to my ears. Like I'll skip them because I had them on my list too. Back to Carla's story, it's one of the most inspiring stories that I can see what belonging to an organization can lead to, because I was mentoring her for her project because of the certification. Not only that, she was doing an e-learning project. She landed her job through just attending an event with us, and this is how things happen. To Juan's point, all those pieces of advice are amazing. I don't think Juan was a client for ACCES with ACCES. So a story short, ACCES teaches us, if you don't know already, all those tips and techniques, the resume writing, interview skills. So how to network, how to go to job fairs, how to meet executives in the events they organize for their clients. So that's why I'm not worried about our audience today. They have a solid support from ACCES. What I want to say is that self-initiative, that mindset, and it's cultural. Like I know from the Middle East, we're not strong in networking. It's not part of our culture. We're tribal. We stay with our groups. So coming here, it's to be vocal with what you know, be very confident, and try to convey that idea. If I prioritize my top resources or advice or what I did, I would say 1, network, 2, network, 3, network, 4, volunteer, because through volunteering, you will meet all sorts of people. And 5 and 6, what Juan said, do those cold calls, connect on LinkedIn, be up to date in what you learn. Now, how can we do that? With COVID, it was a curse and a blessing to humanity, a curse that we lost so many lives and it turned everything upside down. But the blessing is that everything became virtual. So you have an opportunity to attend any event worldwide during COVID. Most of them became free. Our events in I4PL are free. You can come for the time being. You can come to the networking, meet all sorts of people, networking events, to the professional development workshops. So this is how you stay up to date and build on your existing skills. It just needs some tweaking and how you present them. I know one of the exercises I do when I go back to ACCES and become and serve as a guest speaker to fellow newcomers like myself is I put a paper and I ask all the clients to put in their profession, the number of years of experience. We would be like 10 or 15 in the room and we would have 400 years of experience. This tells me the level of expertise of newcomers coming to Canada. So we got this. It's just like know what we need to tweak to fit in the culture and the country. Back to you, Yelenis.
Thank you. Nicely done. Nicely said, all of you. Great advice. All of that works. Even if we didn't come from another country to here, it still works because we're all in the same workplace. So thank you. That's very, very good advice, all of you. We have one last question before we end this session. It is, and can you include projects you've done for courses in your portfolio? This question comes from Lisa Hung. If we can do a quick roundtable, just everybody give 1 or 2 projects, quickly do that, then we can move to the closing of this session. Majeda, can we start with you? What projects have you done? Include what projects you've done for the courses in your portfolio.
So I'm a bit not clear on when the word courses, is it courses or experience? Because it's different. If you've done projects from your courses, or by all means, just put them. They are prototypes that you did and you can put them. For me, when I did my certification, I put, with the permission of my employer then, I put like a competency model that I developed for the technology groups, and I included it. It's my creation, and I explained the process and the framework I use and how what the outcome of that was. And I have proof of, let's say, how many people became certified in my organization because of the competency framework I did. So yes, everything you do, you can put as your own project in a portfolio. If you are mentioning, or this is from your work, you need to get approval. If not, it's going to be hard because you cannot put things that you don't have approval to include for privacy and that. So yeah, by all means, include your courses as projects, your work after permission, put them in your portfolio. Thank you.
Thank you. Juan, can you give us one quick thing? And then after that, Carla, can you do one quick thing? Really quick.
Totally. So yes, ask for permission and then include everything in there. If you cannot include it, try to replicate something that is not the same information, it's a totally different context, but sort of similar structure and etc. So you can showcase what you can do.
Perfect. Thank you. Carla?
For my CTDP, I didn't have any, well, I didn't include any I did in Mexico. So I volunteered in a company for create a program from the scratch, from the assessment to the product for the learners. And I give this all my work to this company. So to get an original program.
Nice. Thank you. I'm just going to wrap that up with saying it's okay to make a project and develop it from beginning to end. If you're at that stage where you don't have anything that you can show, you can do something develop something on your own, get an idea or concept, develop it through, and you can present that, add it to your portfolio until you can build your portfolio. Everybody starts somewhere, so you can do that as well. So thank you, everyone. I think we've answered all of our questions. I think now I'm going to hand you over to Pat. She's going to, Does the slide here? There we go. Did you want me to continue, Pat? So, okay, on the screen, everyone, we have our contact information for Institute for Performance and Learning. If you have any questions, you want to know about certification, you want to contact any of us, we are all on the Professional Development Committee. I also co-chair the Inclusion and Diversity Committee. So if you have questions about any of these topics, please feel free to reach out to us. On here, we have our email, our website, where you can go, and where you can go to the page to learn about our membership. And Pat, you're on mute.
I am. And you can also learn about our events, the networking events and the professional development events that Majeda talked about by going to the website and then clicking on the events tab. Thank you all very much.
Perfect. I think we're going to hand this back to Sonia.
Thank you, everyone. Pat, is it okay if I share my screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
Alrighty, thank you. I'm just going to take it over. Thank you so much for today's panel discussion. Just quickly here, our next webinar is on Tuesday, August 10th, on how to spread positivity in a professional environment. And if you are interested in our future webinars, please go to our website. Our August webinars are all already on our calendar. And for if you'd like to practice speaking your English conversation skills, you can join our Talk English Cafe as well. And if you'd like to speak to someone here at ACCES, please call your closest ACCES location and someone can start helping you with your job search. And if you are still overseas and you will be landing in Canada in a few months, email cec@accessemployment.ca to see if you'd be eligible for any of these pre-arrival programs. And for us, we are very active on our social media. Find out what's happening here at ACCES. Follow us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So thank you everyone for joining today. And thank you to the panelists for a wonderful panel discussion today.